Hello, a little disclaimer up top here. We actually recorded this episode for release in 2020 because it was looking like the sequel to Coming to America was going to be released around Christmas time. Obviously that didn't happen, it's now 2021, so we delayed our tie-in episode accordingly, which is something we've done quite a few times over the last 12 months or so, what with the coronavirus pandemic playing havoc on Hollywood's release schedule. This episode was made available slightly early to people on our Patreon, and there's also a Kingsman 2 episode and an episode about the Purge series, which we released early on there, which are being held back until those new films eventually come out, whenever that's going to be. Find them at patreon.com/dimreturns. Anyway, that's why we talk about there not being a trailer out and that sort of thing. Enjoy!
Hello and welcome to Diminishing Returns. My name is Alan. As always, I'm joined by Sol.
Hello.
And this week we are joined by our regular 80s correspondent, Gareth.
Hello, nice to be with you.
Hello, Gareth. Yes, we've gone back to the 80s. It's Eddie Murphy again this week.
Oh, Lord. Coming
to America. You are the only person we know old enough to remember the 80s.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy was the man.
I guess we're going straight into this. We're dealing with Coming to America, the 80s classic, because there is a sequel coming out. We'll talk about that later. But just as you bring that up, Gareth, I made a little note here. The 80s films that Eddie Murphy did. This is his run of films. So it was 48 Hours, Trading Places, Best Defense, which is a Dudley Moore film in which he seemed to play a supporting role.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop, The Golden Child, which is the best film ever made, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Coming to America, and then he rounded off the decade with Harlem Nights, which he wrote and directed as well.
Listen, I totally agree that is a fantastic run of films. And I think Harlem Nights was the end of that run. And you've done the right thing in ending that list there, because there's an almighty drop-off in quality after that, which has lasted for 30 years.
That's the 80s. The 1989 Harlem Nights. But yeah, that is, fresh off of Saturday Night Live. He's 23 years old or whatever, doing 48 Hours. Like, that is a hell of a decade. And apart from one of those films, he's the lead. He's the major guy in those films.
He was box office.
Yeah, okay, The Golden Child was being slightly sarcastic. But it is a film I remember from my childhood as and it's a fantastic film. It's not a good film.
It's funny. Eddie Murphy is funny. We talked about this in Beverly Hills Cop. The films can be a little bit sketchy. They're a little bit sort of a series of set pieces, and we can talk about that a little bit in this film. But they're bloody funny set pieces. He's a naturally funny guy.
I'm really glad that you both clarified that was a list of films that was supposed to demonstrate how great he is, because I don't know, to me it just sounded like a list of films I either hadn't heard of, have seen in a fairly mediocre, and then two decent ones in there.
Oh, come on.
So, Sol, are you saying that you're a fan of 90s and noughties Eddie Murphy? Of the Clumps?
Oh, man.
And the Nutty Professor? Is that your oeuvre?
Second phase Murphy, family-friendly Murphy.
I've certainly seen more of those Eddie Murphy films.
That's the age difference, I suppose. But I to be honest, I've hardly seen most of those films. I think I may have tried one or two of them, and I've written a note here when I was making notes about this, and I listed those same films that Alan listed, and then I've written, "What happened, man?"
Well, we talked about this in Beverly Hills Cop, the episode we did, in which Gareth joined us for that as well. We covered the whole trilogy, so go back into our archives to find that. And I found a quote or some such thing from John Landis, who directed this, of course, and he said he'd worked with Eddie Murphy at 3 stages of his career. So he did Trading Places, when Eddie Murphy was the absolute best. He was brilliant in everything he did. And then he said Coming to America, where Eddie Murphy was, a bit of he was an established star. He was a bit full of himself, perhaps a little bit bloated, and not physically, but, in terms of, he thought everything he did was great.
Yeah.
And then did Beverly Hills Cop 3 when Eddie Murphy was just depressed and couldn't put the effort in and couldn't bring that film to life. And, maybe that's just a natural arc, of celebrity, of stardom.
Perhaps.
You can't keep going up. There's got to be a come down at some point.
But he's still making money, isn't he? Like, as I said, with those later films, I don't think they're anywhere near as good, but they make lots of money.
Mm.
Well, that's it. We've already left behind second stage Murphy, haven't we? Like, we're into third stage. Come on, no, I really can act. Give me an Oscar, Murphy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we're into attempted comeback Murphy.
Yeah.
It's every couple of years now he'll make a decent film or a go at a decent film, but none of them are quite having the rejuvenating effect on his career that I think he would like. Like Dolomite Is My Name was last year's one, and that was very much, I'm sure it was very close. I'm sure he was very nearly on the ballot for the Oscars that year.
And is that forgive me, Sol, I haven't seen that film. I didn't get where I am today by watching films made after 1989. Is that film a serious film or is it a comedy?
It's billed in most places as a comedy, but I think it's very much one of the... I would call it a drama. It's that kind of Ed Wood comedic drama, if that makes sense.
It's not what I might call an Eddie Murphy comedy.
Yeah, exactly. It's based on a real story with real people. He's playing a real person. But, there's a sense of humour to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not doing much. He's only done like 5 films in the last 10 years, really. He's not exactly bashing them out anymore.
Really?
The thing is, though, I think certainly Eddie Murphy at one point reached the stage where he had 10 children to women who no longer loved him, and he was paying half all over the place. And so, the guy had some bills to pay. But apparently maybe that's not the case. He's certainly not just churning out work on a Nicolas Cage level. So maybe he's all right financially. He can pick the work.
Mm.
But again, when we talked about I go back to the Beverly Hills Cop episode again. The first 2 films, I think Sol disagreed on this. The first 2 films are classic Eddie Murphy comedies.
One was dog shit.
And the third one is just awful. And that's after that fall away. So the fact that it was a Beverly Hills Cop film was irrelevant. It was the fact that something had changed, something had happened. And what worries me is this new Coming to America film, which incarnation of Eddie Murphy do we see?
Mm-hmm.
I would be very surprised if Eddie Murphy doesn't care about this project. This to me reads like a few years, probably nearly a decade ago now, but there was a point very specifically where Jim Carrey realised that his career had completely fallen off the rails and wanted to get back on track by making sequels to his beloved classics that people liked him for. And they put a proper Bruce Almighty sequel into development that never materialized, and they began rolling cameras on Dumb and Dumber 2, and I think the fact that Dumb and Dumber 2 was not very good or well received put an end to that. But it was a very clear point where this guy who didn't do sequels thought, I'm going to revitalize my career with a bit of nostalgia.
But Eddie Murphy has never been afraid of doing sequels. Just no one wanted a Coming to America sequel until now.
Yeah, but he's really put, again, over the last few years, it's, this long gestating Twins sequel's been moving forward. Beverly Hills Cop 4's lurched into life again, and Coming to America is finally upon us. Coming to America, that's number 2.
Very clever what they've done there. Because it's TO, it's T-O, and they've done a 2 instead. It's brilliant.
And listener, we should point out we are talking about Coming to America this week. I don't know if we've actually specified that.
Yes, not yet. Coming to America. So let's jump back 32 years, 1988. So yes, Eddie Murphy is a bona fide star by this point. He can do whatever he wants, and he chooses to do this. Now, it's written by, who is it? David Sheffield and Barry Blaustein, who I looked them up because I didn't recognise the names, and they done a few Eddie Murphy films. They're a writing partnership, but they seem to have come from Saturday Night Live, the early years of that. So they probably knew Eddie Murphy and worked with him, so they wrote a few films for him. I think they wrote the original Police Academy film as well.
Oh, genius.
Just...
I've been, for the listeners' benefits, I've been lobbying Alan and Sol to cover the Police Academy films for about 4 years, and they won't do
it. I watched all the Police Academy films a matter of maybe a month or 2 months ago.
Well, I'm ready whenever you are.
We'll slip it in. And, yeah. So those writers, like I said, I think they'd worked with Eddie Murphy before. So I don't know if this was written specifically for him. I suspect it is, and I'll tell you why I suspect that is. This character is specifically a black character. And if you weren't going to write for Eddie Murphy, who was going to play this in 1988?
Well, I'll tell you what, Alan. I think that this film it's very black. It's very African American, isn't it? You know, there's only really Louis Anderson is the only white actor in the cast.
Oh, that must be the guy who plays the Jewish man in the barber shop, right?
No, Eddie Murphy doing Jew face.
We'll come back to that in a second.
We will. No, but seriously, Louis Anderson, who plays the guy working in McDowell's,
like a fry cook.
He's the only white character in the whole film, isn't he? Which is interesting. It's a very black film. It's a very African American film.
Yeah, it's full of black characters. I guess I hadn't quite thought of that as a thing, but yeah, you're right. There's just one white guy in there in the middle. Doesn't really do anything.
There's a lot of white supporting faces, though. You know, like the taxi driver who drops them off is an extended sequence with a white guy.
But I think it's interesting that in the 80s, there were, in American media, I think there were these TV programs that were made for that audience. But this film wasn't. It wasn't made for, like say a blaxploitation film in the 70s. This was made for a global audience, and yet it had that same sensibility.
The thing is, though, like in terms of representation, does it count? Because they are all played by Eddie Murphy in various wigs and makeup. Actually, some of them are played by Arsenio Hall in this one. Yeah.
Well, let's just a quick basic summary of the plot. An African prince travels to America to try and sort of find himself and get away from his closeted lifestyle to experience a bit of real life, but more specifically to find himself a wife worthy of his intellect rather than just someone set up to please him.
But he is of a fictional nation, and he is very wealthy. It's not like he's from a collapsed...
Oh yeah, where I say African prince, it's not some like weird...
He's actually a prince. He's not just a Nigerian email scam.
Yeah. Well, the nation he comes from is... Can you remember what it was called?
Zamunda,
that was it, yeah. So Zamunda's probably quite oil rich, you think? I guess.
Is that what you
Well, I mean, judging from the ostentatious style that they keep themselves in, the amount of paste jewellery that James Earl Jones is wearing must have cost $35 at least.
He looked like a selection bot. He had this gold necklace on that looked like sort of foil-covered chocolates, and then his crown looked like wine gums stuck to it. It's ridiculous. It looked like he'd won a novelty crown in a sweet shop competition or something.
Eddie Murphy is, of course, this young African prince. James Earl Jones as his father, the king, and Madge Sinclair as his mother, the queen, who, by the way, is the voice of Simba's mother in The Lion King. So they paired up again for The Lion King. Well, what I really liked about James Earl Jones in these early scenes is the lasciviousness that he manages to put across. Like, he's always just got this cheeky smile on his face, like going, "Oh yeah, my son, you're gonna go sow your wild oats, aren't you? Right? Yeah, you do sleep with your bathers, don't you? I do, yeah." But still with those same silky tones that James Earl Jones has. Because later on, he's mostly just a serious, like, "Oh, I've come to sort you out" kind of thing.
I found there were several times in this film where there were lines and things that were said that we still do in our house. So, for example, if my wife asks me, what do you fancy for dinner? I might say, "Whatever you like."
What we're setting up here is this film is a feminist statement. It's all about how...
You're really going to have to back that up.
No, but the general idea is that he doesn't want just an arranged marriage. who's there to serve him. He wants a woman with intellect, a woman who's not just there for her looks and for her kind of practical uses as a wife and mother. He wants a woman who's her own person.
Here's my question, and I might be overthinking this, but how has Prince Akeem of Zamunda acquired those enlightened views from his palace in Zamunda?
That I did think
watching Hollywood movies, coming to America probably.
Like, in reality, if I've got this Saudi prince in my head, in reality, those people go to Oxbridge and then they go to Sandhurst. So they are somewhat westernized. Yeah. But Akeem hasn't done that. Otherwise, he would know what basketball was. So how is he simultaneously this fish out of water and naive and enlightened?
But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, hey, it's a comedy. Let's not get too involved. Eddie Murphy is doing some kind of accent here. No, he's not gone for an African accent of any type. It's just a sort of vaguely, slightly off his normal voice.
I think it is. It's the sort of generic African accent that my dad might do. If he was, let's say my dad was doing a Nelson Mandela impression.
I think it was much less offensive than that.
This is what he would sound like.
It's definitely a stab at an African accent, I think, but it's obviously very light.
Non-specific.
Had they made Black Panther 20 or 30 years earlier, I think they would sound like this, because they would think, right, I love the accent you're doing there, but we've got to be able to make sure the white man can understand what's being said in this film, so dial it back.
Arsenio Hall is doing a bit of an accent as well, but nobody else is. James Earl Jones isn't.
Well, James Earl Jones naturally has whatever the hell accent he has. I mean, whatever Eddie Murphy's doing.
Gravitas, mate.
Is he from Michigan or something?
He does. What is James Earl Jones' accent? Because he's from America, isn't he?
That's Shakespearean actor accent, that is.
Is that him doing that kind of Kelsey Grammer upper class thing? But
that's actually very well observed. He's Kelsey Grammer slowed down, isn't he?
Yeah.
Is somebody playing the Frasier theme tune at the wrong speed?
Tossed salad and scrambled eggs. He always speeds up at the end of his sentence. He's got a very specific cadence.
This goes back to what I was saying about this being an African-American film. There's a comparison to be made with Black Panther about this kind of Pan-African pride. You know, I would guess that most films in the 80s and 70s that covered Africa would be very much from a colonial point of view, period dramas. And this was very much, these people are sophisticated and they got money and they're in charge.
So you're saying the film is both racially sensitive and a feminist statement?
No, you said feminist statement, Mo. I'm the one putting my foot in the racial pot.
So, right, yeah, so what happens is Eddie Murphy decides he wants to go and sow his royal oats. So he goes to America with Arsenio Hall, who's like his mate, basically. And I think
he decides to go looking for a legitimate partner under the guise of deciding to sow his oats. Yeah.
Yes, so he has 40 days in the wilderness.
Shall we talk a little bit about Arsenio Hall before we go to New York? Because he can't act, can he?
I was hoping one of you could explain what the deal is with him.
Well, he's a comedian. He was a stand-up comedian, and then he became a chat show host. But I think that chat show might have come after this, or around about the same time.
Yeah, it was after this. Yeah. Okay, Arsenio Hall is not particularly primarily known for an actor, but I think he's perfectly good in this, like this level of acting. What you need.
He's every bit as good an actor as Eddie Murphy, isn't he?
Oh, come on now, Eddie Murphy is a very good actor. I'm not having it.
I think the problem is he's given himself all these different characters to play, but they're basically all the same, except for the priest, who is so big a character. Like, it's just not even...
I didn't come here to preach to you today, but when I look at these contestants for the Miss Black Awareness pageant, I feel good. I feel good because I know there's a God somewhere. There's a God somewhere. Turn around, ladies, for me, please.
I don't know. It's a ridiculous performance.
Yeah, but that's a sketch, isn't it? The whole scene in the church is,
but not a
sketch.
good sketch. It's like a Little Britain Series 2 performance.
Well, that's another line that we still use in our house. If anybody's religious, then there's a God somewhere comes out.
But I think that voice you just did there is better than the voice he's doing. It's kind of like with like big teeth in his Yeah. Well, with an American accent, but, you know, it just seems like a character where the voice is dictated by the makeup job. They've, you know, restricting his ability to perform.
I feel like you're both being very harsh on Arsenio Hall, who I think does a very good job here.
Look, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm aware that Eddie Murphy likes to play lots of characters in his films, and therefore every time someone appeared who looked a bit like they might have lots of makeup on, like, I was analysing everyone to be like, is that Eddie Murphy? If it wasn't for that, he might have just slipped by in this film for the most part. I would have just thought, you know, oh, okay, whatever. That, like, the character he plays in the barbershop, for example, he's going for broke doing a big character, but it's just, I don't know, it felt like it could have been anyone.
Yeah, but Eddie Murphy dominates those scenes as well.
But then, like, is it just me? I don't really know what this film gains from having Eddie Murphy play that guy in the barbershop.
But gains Eddie Murphy. He wouldn't have done it if he didn't get to play 8 different characters.
Well, the thing is, right, when we first see, so we go to America and there's a barbershop nearby. We go into the barbershop and we just have a little skit with them. And it's like, that was sort of, okay, that was a nice, funny little character bit, but absolutely
then we keep
irrelevant.
Going back.
But then they do sort of bring it back in to make it slightly relevant. They pull those characters in tangentially to at least justify them being there.
In my opinion, those scenes are the funniest scenes in the film. I think that it's great banter.
Pound for pound, Sugar Ray Robinson, the greatest fighter ever lived. Oh, come on, man. What about Joe Louis?
The Blonde Bomber. Now that was a great boxer.
You damn right.
I suppose nobody in here ever heard of Cassius Clay.
We got a point. Cassius Clay was a bad motherfucker. Hey, I ain't saying Clay ain't bad. I'm just saying I stopped liking Cassius Clay once you changed the name to Muhammad Ali. What kind of shit is that?
You know, I agree with you that the film would survive without them. You know, it's not entirely relevant to the plot, but that's the nature of Eddie Murphy's films. We have these little comedic set pieces that just gradually move the plot along, and they're great set pieces. You know, the riffing that he's doing is funny. The way the characters, albeit they're all him, the way they play off against each other is funny. I think it's good. I think it's a really funny set of sequences.
Yeah, I like them as well, and I like that. Like, his old Jewish guy is actually not immediately obvious that it's him, which makes a bit of a change.
I remember that being on the news. This new Eddie Murphy film had come out, and look at this, he's playing an old Jewish guy, and it was like there was a photograph of him, a still photograph on the news, on the making it up. It was a really big deal.
He didn't go with the Chinese guy like in Norbit.
You know what? I'd like to give Eddie Murphy a bit of credit for this, you know, because as poorly judged or ill-conceived as, you know, playing Mr. What's he called? Mr. Wong or something in Norbit is.
May as well be. Yeah.
I as it happens, I watched Mrs. Brown's Boys the movie earlier today.
Why? Did you lose a bet?
I've got a thing. No, I've got a thing for movies based on British sitcoms. It was on a list. I also watched Darren Aronofsky's Pi, so, you know, I was balancing out the lowbrow with the highbrow. But in that film, now I don't know if this is in the TV show as well. It probably is, but I've never really watched Mrs. Brown's Boys before, other than a clip here and there. There's a character played by the guy who plays Mrs. Brown in the movie called... Yes, it's not Angelica Houston in the TV show. The guy who plays Mrs. Brown also plays a character called Mr. Wang. And if you can believe this, in 2014, I'm guessing it must be from the show, I don't know. But it is just him with, like, Japanese Bond-style orange tan on his face and a dodgy wig, squinting his eyes and mispronouncing his R's and L's. There's nothing to it.
Really? I mean, you're saying, like, can you believe this in 2000? I don't think I can believe that.
No.
Oh, no, I was gobsmacked. I was genuinely...
They're not actually doing that on TV now, are they?
I think it must have been in the TV show and somehow been considered acceptable in the movie because
it got grandfathered
was part of the
in.
show.
Hang on a minute, I think I've heard of this. Is this ironic racism?
Well, there was one line in it where I didn't quite hear what they say, but I think they were basically saying, I think someone said, like, you know what you're on about, you're Chinese. And he said, like, I'm not Chinese, I'm from Shanghai or something. And then someone else was like, no, he's not. He's from bloody Runcorn or whatever. So I think maybe the joke was he's just some guy who pretends to be a racist caricature, and that's how they get away with it. But the point I was leading to is he's not even doing it well. And to give Eddie Murphy some credit, as ill thought out, as ill conceived, as tasteless perhaps as some of those, performances that he's done in the past have been, at least he kind of does the voice well.
He does. Yeah. It's a convincing job.
Back to the plot. Our duo of Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall have found a crappy apartment because they want to live like peasants, to see what real life is like. They get a job at McDowell's, which is definitely not McDonald's.
McDowell's is such a weird concept in this film because it seems to exist initially as a jokey, we can't use McDonald's in our film kind of thing. But then, McDonald's exists in the universe and becomes a big thing that this guy's in a sort of legal dispute with them. So I can only assume that's maybe like the second or third iteration of a joke. It's like it's evolved to the point that it's got all these different layers to it. But it's a very weird.
I like it. It's just that this guy, he's just a bit of a chancer. He's like, look, I'm gonna call my restaurant. My name's McDowell. I'm gonna call it McDowell's if you want. And like,
on the subject of McDowell, I think John Amos is great in this. He comes good in the end, but basically the character's like he's a money grabbing narcissist. And he is a bit of a dick, but I like him. I think he does a great job.
Yeah, I think he's very good in this. And I don't have I seen him in anything? Has he done anything of note beyond?
He's Kunta Kinte. He's in Roots. Have you ever seen Roots?
I've not seen Roots. No.
Yeah, that's right.
He was in what you've seen. What was it called? The thing with Adam Sandler as a dual.
Oh,
that
Uncut Gems.
Stressful film. That one that gave me a...
Is he
Uncut Gems. Yeah, when he goes up to he takes his son up to that apartment to use the toilet, and he knocks on John Amos's house, and it is like it's the actor John Amos. He's like it's supposed to be him playing himself, and he's like, "Oh, okay. I loved you in Coming to America. Can I use your toilet, please?" So now the basic concept is Eddie Murphy's character Akeem has got eyes for this lady who is working at McDowell's because her father owns it, and so they get jobs there. And so you got the whole bit where he's trying to seduce her. She's engaged to an heir to the Soul Glow fortune, which is a beautiful bit of 80s comedy. I don't know if it quite translates the whole Soul Glow thing.
Listen, I'm sorry to do this again, but this is another thing that we say in our house all the time. Anyone product in their hair, it's Soul Glow.
Semi, who is Arsenio Hall's character, he's sick of it. He wants to display their wealth, and Akeem is trying to woo this woman with his personality rather than his fortune. That's basically the whole function of the film. Samuel L. Jackson robs the restaurant.
Oh, that's a good scene.
A very young Samuel L. Jackson, yeah. It really...
I mean... You say very young. He was 40 years old.
But I'm used to 70-year-old Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, still a drug addict. Samuel L. Jackson is what we've got here, which is early for him. So just an opportunity for Akeem to show how cool under pressure and how brave he is, impressing the ladies. There's some shenanigans with the younger sister, trying to get her involved, etc., etc. But ultimately, I don't know if you've got any specific things you want to mention and before sort of like start rushing to the end.
I did make a note that there is some aggressively synthesized saxophone in the score at a few points.
Really? Quite a specific thing to note.
Yeah. In fact, can we talk about the music? At the start of this film, there's a kind of... It's very similar to The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Yeah.
But it's not quite.
I think I made a note that it was African-y music.
Is The Lion Sleeps Tonight based on something this is also based on, or...
Yeah, it's African-y music. It's like if I said I want some Japanese music, what would you do?
All right, lads. We'll do some karaoke.
No. So, but I think you mentioned this a bit earlier, Gareth. It does just feel like a kind of just series of set pieces, but it doesn't feel too sketchy. I think it's fine. I think it's all just pushing the plot forward. We're just seeing further on, but we all know where it's heading. And in fact, I think the relationship between the two of them goes along nicely. That they kind of, she notices him, they sort of become friendly, and he's a shoulder for her to cry on and stuff like that. And, you know, he's just wheedling his way into her affections.
Wheedling?
Yes.
Is that the word you're going to go with?
Yeah, but in a nice way. And I think it works really nicely. It feels like a good development of a relationship, because we've got to establish here that they're going to know each other for a month and then get married at the end. Like, that's what we're dealing with here. So I think they do as good a job of that as you can, really. And the rivalry with the boyfriend, the fiancé,
the what?
It never really fiancé. It never really comes to much.
Well, the thing is, the problem is that Daryl's such a knob that there's no competition, is there? You know, he's just, his behaviour's awful, and she doesn't even like him. Yeah. So
he's got lovely hair, though.
Interesting question for you: who would you say is the antagonist in this film?
Colonel Troutman.
Is it Daryl? Is it Daryl? Is it the King? I don't know. I think there's not really an antagonist in this film, and yet we're still rooting for a king. We're still rooting for Eddie Murphy.
I guess that was partially what I was getting towards, I suppose. Daryl he's set up as if he's going to be the antagonist, and it doesn't really go anywhere.
He just disappears, doesn't he? There's no problem for him.
And Mr. McDowell could be a problem, but then he gets won over really easily. And yes, the king ultimately is the antagonist at the end, but you know that comes right at the end.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, I don't know who the antagonist is, but do you know what else? Which I think is sort of on a similar terms. The last record you did with us, Gareth, I think was Bill and Ted, and we were talking there about how just unendingly chirpy and optimistic they are, and that's what Akeem is. You know, he takes everything with a smile, and it's just like everything in life is a wonder. It's like, oh look, we get to wash the windows. Isn't that amazing?
I think it's a lot easier to be like that if you're a billionaire.
Yeah, you never live like common people.
Yeah, but the whole point is that he walks away from that to experience kind of more of a real life, and he still embraces it, and he enjoys the challenge of it and everything.
Yeah, but he does it knowing he's got a safety net of, you know, you can always... it's only for a month. The only point that it ever steps away from that is when he offers to renounce the throne for love.
Yeah, obviously that's not going to happen.
There was a trend, wasn't there, for rich people to do holidaying as if they were homeless. It was like a homeless holiday where you live as a homeless person on the streets, but you're only doing it as like a novelty for, you know, a night or two, and it's not really the same as that being your existence. And I think, you know,
it's like when politicians live on income support for a week. It's easy for a week. You can do it for 50 weeks.
Exactly.
That's what Semi's there for, and I think that's why that character is nice to have as a contrast, because he very quickly gets fed up of this, and it's like, oh, this is crap, let's just spend some money and like do really cool things. You know, he's there to show that Akeem is a lot more kind of cool with it all. And I think, you know, if you want to put it into real terms, yeah, okay, he's not really worried, he's got the safety net and whatever, but as a character in a film, that optimism, that chirpiness that he brings to it is a really nice part of the character, and it just makes him extremely likable, and you can understand why this woman would fall in love with him and everything. I guess all I'm saying is I like Eddie Murphy in this film.
Yeah. I think, he's in this film, he's an incredibly likable character, but it does always play as a bit unrealistically lovely.
Well, can we sort of move towards the end of the film, because I really don't like the end of the film. I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
we get this sort of not quite the resolution, but where it all comes together at the end. It's at McDowell's house. Mr. McDowell's found out that he's a prince, and he's trying to set his daughter up with him because he's seeing the dollar signs. The king and the queen arrive, and you've got Daryl knocking on the door, and it's farcical. I don't like farce. It's like they even play that sort of farcical music in the score.
It's farcical, but it's kind of, when farce is done well, it's because it becomes incredibly intricate. almost to the point of self-parody. You know, your likes of Frasier and Graham Linehan sitcoms and so on do farce very well, whereas here it's just straight down the line farce with...
It's just, he's fallen over when running to the door.
Exactly, and it's so I agree, it's just kind of like... It feels almost like the stakes of the film and the world of the film have become much smaller, because it does just become this very domestic feeling set of issues.
And also, you know, our ultimate ending is that, you know, he's getting married to this arranged marriage. He's just accepted it. And then, it's her actually under the veil.
Yeah, I want to know what the mechanics are from when they left each other on the train to a few days later. There's how did they get her there? Who went back to her and said, I know you've just said you don't love him and you don't want to get married to him, but actually... he does love you. Do you want to just come over to Africa and get married? I don't buy it.
It was his mother. She sorted it all out. Because right at the end we see the mother says to James Earl Jones, like, well, you know, you've another fine mess you've gotten us into. And then they've obviously gone to her and said, look, I know I said he was it, so is Royal Oaks, but actually he loves you. We think because he's said
Would you like to come to Africa, leave your entire life behind, and get actual married?
You know what though? The way it's played, you do get a sense of she's pissed off about feeling like she's been lied to, a lie of omission. But I think it's played really well, because you do get the sense from all of that she's kind of like, the second he explains things, she's kind of like, oh, okay, that's pretty reasonable, and
I understand,
I'm actually like,
I'm still
I need to just like vent and be pissed off. But it plays like she's not going to be pissed off, and she's going to be kind of into him again in 10 minutes time. So
yeah.
I think that's okay. And I like that scene on the subway. I think, if anything, they struggled to find a nice, big, cinematic conclusion for the film. But for what it is...
So they just nicked it from Crocodile Dundee instead?
Oh, you're right, it is. Yeah, it's on the platform.
But I think that ending works because we've spent the time building the relationship and we kind of... like that feels right. Yes, the actual ending, it's just a bit trite and not really realistic.
I think it works for what it is.
Silly comedy film, and you know, I don't need too much. Because right at the beginning, he basically sees her and he's like, oh yeah, she's the one.
That's the bit that I don't like, that he stumbles upon this woman who's perfect and he's going to fall in love with so quickly and easily.
Well, exactly, but then the next hour of stuff does establish that, you know, at least there is some connection there. But yeah.
What happened to that poor African girl who'd been raised to marry him?
I did wonder that.
She's still in the fucking side room barking like a dog.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned there's a bit of a cameo appearance from Ralph Bellamy and Don Ameche.
I did want to bring this up. This is one of my 2 notes.
Here's an interesting thing. There's a reference to Trading Places, as you said. And there's also a scene really early on where Eddie Murphy breaks the fourth wall and looks to camera.
Yeah.
As he does in a couple of his other films.
And Daryl does it.
But he never does it again. Well. It's really just really weird.
Yeah, I think that's a John Landis thing.
Because Eddie Murphy does that early on in Trading Places, doesn't he? And that's what made me think of it when we see Don Ameche and Ralph Bellamy.
You can feel a John Landis touch here. There's a lot of like just little comedy looks, you know, character little look aside and stuff like that, which is very John Landis, but works nicely. It's funny stuff.
You talked about cameos. Did you all notice Cuba Gooding Jr. getting his hair cut in the barbershop?
Yes, I did. I don't know if I would have noticed, but I saw his name in the credits and sort of put the two together. But
no, he doesn't say anything. He's just sat there mute, isn't he?
Yeah.
That Trading Places cameo... Yeah, it's the 2 actors appearing as their characters from that film. If anyone hasn't seen Trading Places, what is it? These 2 rich guys...
will mean nothing to you, so don't worry about it.
Well, that's what I want to say. I think I saw Coming to America before I saw Trading Places, and so it didn't mean anything to me. And now that I know what it is, I don't like it as much. Or, you know, having never seen the film, I was presented with Eddie Murphy handing a huge wad of cash to these homeless guys, them thanking him, and then, you know, them looking down at the money in their hand, getting, you know, overjoyed, can't believe what they've got, and then one of them says, "Mortimer, we're back!" And that's the end of that. And I love that.
I'm very uncomfortable with the concept of an Eddie Murphy cinematic universe.
But I think I think it's funnier the notion of these two homeless men being handed money, and then one of them shouts, "Mortimer, we're back!" and
it works because they've got like posh accents and they're like older white guys. It's just like it tells a little story.
I think that's
itself,
funnier.
It teases a story.
That's funnier than it is if you have seen Trading Places and you know that they're two formerly incredibly rich men who've lost all their money and become, homeless. And but I do like that moment.
We didn't talk about the scene in the nightclub where there's the sort of beauty parade of potential girlfriends. I know, that was pretty horrific stereotyping, wasn't it?
There's a comedy bit as well. You could do it so much better.
Well, I've seen that exact bit in a number of rom-coms. I've seen it done very well. I think The 40-Year-Old Virgin is the one that springs to mind from one that I did find funny and so on. But that's obviously your classic, let's get a load of people into improv and whittle it down to 2 minutes we actually find funny sort of thing.
It's essentially a speed dating scene, isn't it? But before speed dating was a thing. So there's no real context of why they're getting through so many women.
Why are all these women coming over and sitting and chatting to them?
2 separate sets of twins. Going for the twin joke twice.
We'll do that joke twice. It's so funny we can make it work twice.
Yeah. But of course, the real high point of this scene is Arsenio Hall in a wig and a dress.
That's the joke, isn't it? Because what he says isn't funny. No, he's playing a sexually aggressive woman. That's the joke. That's it.
That is the joke. But that's obviously something they just did in the moment. Arsenio Hall went like, "Give me a wig and I'll make some sexually aggressive remarks." They hadn't scripted it all. That's Arsenio
Hang on,
Hall
is he?
improvising.
He's playing a cis woman? Because I just assumed he was supposed to be a trans woman.
Who knows? Does it matter?
This is 1988, Saul. We didn't have things like cis women.
Well, exactly. And that's why it's just like a solid joke in an 80s movie is just, this is actually, someone with a penis. And they're chatting up this man and he doesn't know any better. And then you've got the added layer of it being Eddie Murphy, who, in his personal life.
Well, actually, when I watched it, I thought that's supposed to be a woman. She's just particularly masculine. That's the joke. Mm-hmm. And it's Arsenio Hall. I don't think I thought any further than that.
Well, I just thought it was your classic, man, New York's so different to this country this guy's from. They have trans women here. You'd never believe it.
I can tell you for a fact, we didn't say trans women.
Yeah, I know you didn't, but I don't want to... I'm using language I deem appropriate to refer to things from the past. I'm
One of the scenes that really made me laugh, when they arrive at Queens, they have all their luggage stolen, and then the next morning they go outside and everyone's wearing all their African clothes. Yeah. And there's a kid, like a 7-year-old kid, that goes past on a skateboard in a little velvet jacket. And I thought, which one of those two had a child's smoking jacket in their luggage?
Do you know what I've noticed about 80s films with Eddie Murphy is that, there's always like a leading lady, someone, the love interest. And it's always an actor I've never heard of and never done anything else. How come in this case, I'll have to look up her name because I can't remember.
What else was she in?
So it's Shari Headley who plays Lisa. Very good actor, like no problems here at all. But like, then what? I mean, she's had a career, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, what's that about? You just can't upstage Eddie Murphy, I guess.
Is it a factor of the lack of opportunities, the lack of female comedic leading ladies in the 80s?
It's not a comedy role, is it? There's just not many opportunities for women, especially not white women.
I can't think of any other African-American actresses of about that age. Is either because I'm racist or Hollywood is. Let's go with Hollywood.
It said at the beginning of the film an Eddie Murphy production as well, but he's not credited as a producer. So I guess it's just a company, but he's not even credited as an executive producer. So maybe it's someone else has started a production company called Eddie Murphy Productions and then got in touch with him.
To be honest, I've never really understood all of that. Who gets the production credit and exec producer and...
Well, like an executive producer usually is the people putting the money in. So they don't actually do anything in a practical level.
They usually attend 1 or 2 meetings early on where they'll kind of go, yeah, we approve putting money into that. We approve that pitch, greenlight it, good. Then that's it.
Yeah, and they might go, well, we don't want that actor. He's not going to sell enough tickets. Here's a list of top name actors that you can have.
And sometimes they will be someone who bought the book or source material rights, and the film is then based on that, and they'll get an to be honest, executive producer is one of the most bullshit credits in the world. It can be a very important role, but 99% of the time it's someone who did basically nothing. But that's in film, and in TV it's the opposite way around. And TV, the most important person on a TV show arguably is the executive producer. It's very weird. If you're familiar with the idea of a showrunner, they are, for whatever reason, credited as executive producer alongside a load of people who do much less. It's a stupid credit, basically. It should be sorted out. The Producers Guild need to get on that.
They do get paid very well, though.
I think that's it. I think a lot of the time executive producer means this person is on the payroll for doing nothing, and we have to figure out a way to...
If you've put up the money or you've got the rights to the thing, then you get all the money back at the end. Yeah. Anyway, so Coming to America, he's gone back again, and do you want to rate? Shall we rate the film?
Yeah, okay. I'll go first. See, I got very happy memories of this film, and watching it this week, I'm not going to say it held up, but it was all right. It was as good as I remember it. It was never my favourite film, but I think I talked about the barber's shop scenes that I like. I think some of the set pieces are really funny. Some of the set pieces are a bit shonky. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to sing its praises as a story, but it made me laugh several times. And as I say, there are still loads of lines from this film that I use on a regular basis. I am going to give it 9 out of 10.
Whoa!
Ooh, wow. Well, I want to basically, I'll go next because I think I'm just going to echo your sentiments there. There's the odd bit where, I think after the first sort of 40 minutes, it's a bit procedural. You know, it's just, we're just moving along this plot. But it's funny enough to get away with that. It's fine. There's some moments I was laughing out loud. I was just sat there watching it myself. I really enjoyed it. When I went to rate it, I actually had it as a 7 out of 10 on my IMDb, and I've knocked it up to an 8.
Fucking hell.
So I did very much enjoy the experience.
Well, I was working towards an 8 as I was talking about it then, but then as it came out my mouth, I went 9.
Well, you can't deny that kind of instinctive reasoning.
I rate by instinct.
I guess the difference here is that I don't think it's very funny. I just, to me, this is that classic light comedy in that it's not really funny. It's, everyone's not taking it very seriously, but it's almost like a Christopher Columbus film tonally. It's just so I don't find it particularly funny, but I like it. I think it's a very charming film. It works for what it is, but to me, what it is just a kind of nice, charming 80s rom-com, and a very good job of what it is. But for me, that's just a 7 out of 10. So and a very good, solid 7 out of 10.
That's fair, though. I mean, like I said, I had this as a 7, and then I just laughed so much while I was watching it, enjoyed it this time. I was like, give that an 8. So that's an 8 overall.
Wow.
Very reasonable. Yeah, very good, actually, for a throwaway comedy.
Yeah, very good. It's much higher than we gave either Bill and Ted film, for comparison.
And we love those.
Yeah.
That's what you get for inviting on someone who has a complete disrespect for the concept of ranking films.
Well, we picked this film because there is Coming to America. Will be coming soon.
They've used the 2, right? Not the T-O, the 2.
Coming to America, like a Prince song.
Has there ever been a film where the sequel is phonetically the identical title to the first film before? Excluding 1 or 2 instances where the sequel just has the same name as the original because they were commissioned to make a remake and made a sequel instead. It doesn't strike me like a smart move. Just very confusing. Certainly, on a podcast, we have to keep differentiating, clarifying which film we mean.
Yeah. She called it Coming Back to America. Well, has there ever been a film? Has there ever been a film with a number replaces a word that has been good?
America: The Second Coming. I'm sorry, I was miles away. What did you say, Alan?
Has there ever been a film where a number replaces a word in the title and it's been any good whatsoever?
Yeah, there are instances where a number replaces a single letter. Does that count?
No, and I know you're going to say 7, which is the worst title in film history.
I won't have it.
I've never written it is a good film, and that's a very difficult. And whenever I'm going to rate 7, we'll do it on this film once. I will be taking a point off for the title.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just the way it goes, which is a shame because it's a great film. It's usually a good indicator of crapness.
It's usually the number 2 in place of the word 2, like Jungle to Jungle.
Fucking hell.
Isn't there something with the number 4 and it's something forever? But yeah, good film. Oh, there's got to be one.
What's the one, was it 13 Ghosts, where they somehow managed to get a 1 and a 3 in it?
Oh, I've never seen that, but yeah, that is...
so there is a sequel called Coming to America, in which I understand Akeem finds out he has a long-lost son in America and he comes over to do something like that. Don't know really how that's going to relate to him getting married 35 years previously or whatever it is. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to work. And there doesn't seem to be much information about it. There's certainly no trailer available. But yeah, Arsenio Hall's back. Most of the supporting cast are there. You know, the parents are dead, but I don't know if they'll be dead in the film as well. Well, the good news is that Wesley Snipes and Tracy Morgan are both in it. So
oh, fantastic. Am I being ironic?
Who knows? James Earl Jones is credited in IMDb, so
good.
That might be Eddie Murphy with his face digitally implanted onto him.
I'm sorry, I just a genuine question. Is James Earl Jones dead?
Yeah.
I don't. Did he die?
Wait,
he died ages ago, didn't he?
Wait, did he actually? Maybe he's still...
Did we have this conversation last time we talked
No,
about it?
No, because he was in The Lion King last year. I think he's still alive, Alan.
He's still alive. He is 89 years old and still going strong.
I was convinced he died for a second there, but I realise it's just because Mufasa died.
Do you know what? I think it's because when we talked about Lion King, we had to look up to see if he died. And I convinced myself that he had.
I know this is a little off topic, but I've never seen The Lion King.
You say that as if that's a surprise, but I have met you.
So yeah, Saul, when does Coming to America come out? Because there's no trailer or anything yet.
We're in the middle of a pandemic, so the theatrical plans were... What's the word? Scuppered. Amazon Prime stepped in, much as they did with Borat's subsequent movie film. It was their big thing this year, their big film that they were kind of like, look, we bought up Borat 2 and put that out straight to streaming. Amazon Prime, well, hey, we're competing with Netflix. This was meant to be in cinemas. Oh. And Coming to America is the next in what I assume is going to be quite a long line of them doing that. They've spent reportedly a lot of money on buying the rights to Coming to America.
The business of this these days. So, you know, a film cost X amount to produce and then they make their money back from box office and then it used to be from DVD sales. How does it work now? So do Amazon Prime pay... Will it cover the cost of production? How did the production company get their money back?
I believe that, generally speaking, Amazon Prime have some weird thing in place whereby you get paid like 1 cent for every hour that someone watches of your content. It's something like that. Because I think anyone can basically upload their stuff to Amazon Prime, but then... Beyond that, they seem to be making deals where they just pay people a flat-out fee, which is certainly what they've been doing with Coming to America and Borat.
Yeah.
And maybe both of those films got a cut of streaming, percentages as well. But I believe for Borat 2, they paid reportedly, I think, $80 million, which is an exorbitant amount for a streaming project. But... it's a big event for them and they're trying to make a big show of...
I mean, I don't know how much Borat would have cost. It can't be that expensive a film, but 80 million should cover that, shouldn't it? Should it?
Oh, yeah, totally. Completely. Borat 2 made a very healthy profit off the back of being sold to Amazon Prime for $80 million. But the first Borat made about $250 million in the cinema. Right. So they're taking a huge hit, but they're kind of presumably cutting their losses from...
cashing in, getting their money.
The pandemic, and I imagine Coming to America is much the same thing. I expect they've been paid enough money to cover the film's budget several times over and be happy with it, but not nearly as much money as they would have made had it followed a traditional release. Which is why everyone who... This is something we've spoken with Calvin about a lot, because he's more involved in all this sort of discussion online because of the ongoing No Time to Die debacle. But he gets really pissed off because lots of people will reply to his things about No Time to Die being delayed with, who cares about the cinema? Who cares about the theatrical experience? Just put everything on streaming. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't actually work long term. You can do that once in a...
Yeah, the problem is they will never be able to make those films again because you're not going to be able to raise $250 million to
That's it.
For budget.
Netflix can drop $100 million on a huge event thing to make a point and say, look, we can compete with the cinema
once a year.
But they can do it once a year, yeah. And they can do that as a loss leader. The idea is people will buy a Netflix subscription because they're making stuff like that. But generally speaking, Netflix can't spend more than... certainly nowhere close to 100 million for a movie, put it that way. And... yeah, you know, in order to have films with budgets like that, you have to be able to sell them at the cinema and make a load of money there, and then all the other places you get revenue. And yeah, not to mention things like Netflix has no back end. So with TV, traditionally, as a TV creator, you have a hit show, you can live off it forever because it gets repeated. You're getting royalties every single time, whereas Netflix, you get an upfront fee and that's it.
So if they can only, you know, if Amazon and Netflix can only really budget once a year, then a film like Coming to America with a 2 in it isn't going to get made, is it?
Well, to be honest, Coming to America is probably the right level of budget film that would get commissioned by Netflix or Amazon Prime in the first place. I can't imagine it's going to cost them more than that. That seems like your classic mid-level budget film. It's not a low budget film.
You won't be able to get Eddie Murphy. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be led by Arsenio Hall. Maybe the jewelry just wouldn't look as realistic. That's the problem.
Or the outdoor scene, you know, where he goes for a walk with his dad and they're in the jungle. It's very obviously a sound studio.
Yeah, just AstroTurf and an elephant wanders by. Yeah, that's all you need.
So yeah, there's this new film coming out anyway, and are you excited?
No.
I'm going to watch it. I mean, I think it's going to be a mess.
I
think it's weird that they're making this film. It feels completely unasked for.
It doesn't. It's completely unnecessary. We haven't been waiting 30 years for this film.
I'd like to say that I don't think they'd go there if they didn't have a good idea, but of course they would. It's Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, you'd like to say that.
I can't bring myself to be cautiously optimistic. I just think it's probably going to be mediocre at best. Hopefully I'll be proven wrong.
I'm looking forward to Golden Child 2. That's what I want to watch.
What else has Eddie Murphy got in the works in the pipeline?
Well, there's always room for Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Nutty Professor 3.
I think it's just Beverly Hills Cop 4, yeah.
No, there's Triplets, which has been in the works for ages as well, with Josh Gad inexplicably writing the script.
Is that right?
Yeah, Triplets and Beverly Hills Cop 4. Although, having said that, I bet you he's got some Dolomite Is My Name-esque project that isn't being widely reported. That's maybe I could see the Safdie brothers working with him, or some people like that.
Maybe he's just spending more time with his kids. A couple of his kids are in their 30s, though. Like,
Oh, he might be spending time with his grandkids.
Yes.
I'm sure we're all very sad that Eddie Murphy hasn't appeared in this episode so far.
Ding dong.
Oh, who's that?
Oh, I'm looking through the peephole, so you'll never guess who it is.
It's a Japanese Bond.
I want to disassociate myself from this before it happens.
Don't open the door, for God's sake. Don't open the door.
You're just going to leave him out in the cold. He's an old man.
Yeah. So yeah, that's coming to America, and we'll look forward to the sequel. We'll do a Diminisode. When that does come out, who knows when that will be?
Maybe Eddie Murphy will grace us with his presence for that.
We can get away with it.
It's not in the public domain.
Yes, if you want to support the show for $1 a month, you can at patreon.com/dimreturns. And for that, apart from just helping us pay for all our sundry expenses here, you do get extra content, like reviews of new releases and other general stuff that we just throw together. No, we work very hard on.
Yeah, we've got a shitload of things we need to actually edit together and put up on there. We've recorded a lot that we need to get out on there.
Thank you, Gareth, for joining us.
No, well, you're welcome. It has been my pleasure to revisit this classic.
Yes, thanks for gracing us with your presence once again, unlike Eddie Murphy. And another little plug for the official Diminishing Returns mixtape playlist on Spotify. I mentioned this several episodes back, but this is a fun new way to listen to the show, interspersed with other episodes of other podcasts that we're on and songs and things that are relevant to the episodes, so that we don't have to put so many music clips in the show that then get copyright infringement flags when we upload the episodes to YouTube. It's good. People are following the playlist. They seem to be enjoying it. It's a good playlist.
Nice.
Go discover some music as curated by myself.
All right.